thanks for tuning in. This is going to be a super quick video, but I get a lot of questions about doming coasters or other resin pieces, and I do have a video on my channel from quite a while ago where I show you how to dome coasters, but I do it with them in the mold. And people ask, well, how do you do it when they're not in a mold? So I'm going to show you that today. So I have two different pieces here. This is a trinket tray that I made, an experiment that failed. Yes, I have lots of things that fail. But I want to dome the bottom of this to kind of give it a more solid appearance and see what that looks like. Now, this does have the lip on it that you get when you pour something in a mold, and I have not sanded that off. Sometimes I will. It depends how rough it is and how many bubbles there might be sitting on the edge. I might sand it just a little bit, but I'm not going to do that this time. And then the other thing, this is just a ceramic coaster, but this does not have a lip. So that's why I have both of these, because I want you to see something with a lip and then a flat piece. So I just mixed up a little bit of resin. Now when you're doming, it works best with a resin that's kind of a medium to thick viscosity. You can do it with a thin resin if you have a lip. On a piece without a lip, it's a lot more, you have to be really, really careful because it's easy to overflow it if the resin's too thin. If you're using a thin resin, you can let it sit for a little while and thicken up. That might help too. So, I'm gonna start off by just pouring some in here. And you don't want to use too much. You can always add more, but when you're doming, start with less and then add as you go. So I'm just going to work this around and just spread it out with my popsicle stick. And I'm not going to push it to the edge just yet, but I'm getting it as close as I can without actually touching the edge. Now, if you don't have enough resin, if you didn't pour enough on here, what's going to happen once you get it all the way to the edge is it's going to pull back into the middle. If that happens, you just know you need more resin, because resin's a liquid and it will flow automatically to the lowest point, and it tends to want to stay together. So if it's flowing to the middle, it's all going to flow to the middle. All right, so now that I have it spread out, now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm doing it a lot slower, a lot more carefully. And as you can see, I'm putting my stick out here and kind of pulling or pushing the resin to the edge. That's creating kind of a little lip of resin, or a little, I don't know what to call it, a little lump of resin in front of the stick. And I'm just getting that right up to the edge. And then you can see it's kind of flowing back down, and that's okay. It's really what you want it to do. You don't want it to flow the other way, because then it'll be going over the edge. And it is a little harder to do the side that's opposite of you. If I wasn't recording this, I probably would turn this around and do it towards me, because then you can really see the edge really well. When you're pushing it away from you, it's a little harder to see the edge. And you notice I have not hit it with a heat gun or anything. And that's because heat will thin it out. So you want to leave this as thick as possible. And any bubbles you can get with a flame, with a torch. If you don't use a torch, you can use a heat gun. And I'll show you how to use a heat gun right now. But instead of being close, you want to be really far away, because the air is going to blow this, and you don't want to blow it over the edge. So you see I'm holding it high up. The resin's not really moving. But you don't want to overdo it, because, like I said, you don't want to get this too warm. And now that it's warmed up a little bit, it is thinner, so it may flow back to the center. So I might have to add a little more, but I'm gonna let this sit here while I do this one. So same principle, just gonna pour onto it. And you might, like I said, you might wanna let your resin sit and thicken up if you're doing a piece like this that doesn't have a lip on the edge. But same concept, push it out to the side. I probably don't have enough resin, but we'll see. You see, I'm not going all the way to the edge yet. I'm stopping about maybe 1/8 of an inch away. And you can use a toothpick for this. You can use a popsicle stick. You could use a little silicone stick. Whatever you find you're most comfortable with, because this is pretty detailed work. And sometimes I'll use a toothpick or something with a really fine tip. So I'm doing the same thing I did on the other one. I'm bringing it right up to the edge. Just that little, kind of a little dam of resin. I'm just pushing right to the edge. And always remember, you can add more resin if you don't have enough, but it's really hard to take it off once it starts overflowing. And it'll take some practice for you to kind of figure out the right amount of resin to pour for different size items. And this part will obviously take practice too, learning how to push it and kind of play with it right to the edge without going over. All right, so this one I'm going to use the torch. I really don't want to use a heat gun on this because there is no lip to help hold it in place. I'm just going to put a teeny bit more in this one. And I'm just going to put the rest of this into this other one. And you can see my resin is really thick at this point. It's not really wanting to come off the stick very easily. So that's kind of the state that you want it in when you're doming. I'm just gonna give it one more round. You do have to be patient with this. This is not something you can do really quickly, at least not if you want it to look good. All right, let me bring you down for a close-up. So you can see these edges, They have a little bit, it looks like bubbles, but that's actually from the lip. The lip is, let's see if I can go down there. You can see the lip is still over the top of the dome. So that's when you'd want to sand. Sometimes you'll want to grind those edges away before you dome. I'm just going to do it after it dries because there are going to be some little rough edges anyways. So I just prefer to smooth out the edges after this dries. But let's see if I can get down and look at it from the side. It's kind of hard to do, but you can see it is right to the edge. Same thing with this one. And you can keep playing with it. It's not exact, it's not perfect. You can see the purple, it's a little wavy. So you can keep playing with it to get the edges perfectly straight. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. And then you want to make sure this is sitting on a level surface while it cures, because if it's not, it's going to run off the side. So, all right, everybody. I hope that was useful and helpful and a technique that you can use down the road. I will see you next time. Take care.